Ray. What do you want to do tonight?
The same thing we do every night, Pinky. Try to take over the world.
We are continuing this class series in Practical Mind Science, dealing specifically with visualization, how to use your God-given power of visualization to be, to do, and to have what you want. Visualization is one of the most effective techniques of being, doing, and having the good that you desire. We've had wonderful experience with it over the years, and we've had people who've had spectacular results with visualization, and so I wanted to teach this again in this series. In every session, we want to begin with reviewing the definition of visualization. And let us recapitulate the definition for visualization. It's always good to have a clear idea in your mind exactly what we're talking about. Visualization is seeing and feeling yourself in your own mind already being, doing, and having the good you desire. That's very interesting, and I would like for you to underline the word already. It's a very interesting thing about the subconscious mind that I mention from time to time. In the subconscious, there is no time element such as past tense or future tense. In the subconscious mind, it is always now. Always now. And whatever you see in your mind, whatever you feel in your mind, the subconscious mind deals with it as a present reality and proceeds to bring it about, to express it on the objective plane of life. And if you're going to be very good at visualization, you must get to that point and you must practice in your own mind, seeing and feeling yourself already being what you want to be, already doing what you want to do, already having what you want to have. I have been giving you an example of visualization from somebody from Atlanta from years back. I remember the name of Mrs. Hines from Atlanta, told about how she sat down between 1 and 2 o'clock one morning, and she was writing me a letter about the type of house she wanted, and she said, I saw it in my head. And she wrote that letter to me about the kind of house she wanted between 1 and 2 in the morning, sealed it up, was going to drop it in the mail that morning on her way to work. Before she could get out to work that morning, her doorbell rang. It was a friend of hers who said, oh, child, I just finished my real estate course, and I just got my real estate license, and I've got just the house you want. She said, come on and let's go and see it. And so they got in their respective cars and went out to see the house, and the husband, that early in the morning was wondering what are these girls going out so early for. And he got in his truck and followed them. But Mrs. Hines said, when we got to that house and I saw the outside of that house, it was exactly the house that I'd seen in my head between 1 and 2 a.m. that morning. Not only that, she said, when I went inside the house and looked around, it was exactly the house that I had seen in my head between 1 and 2 that morning while she was writing me that letter describing. Now, that is a good example. There are some terms mentioned here in subconscious correlation, vibratory affinity. I'll mention this much about it at this point. Subconscious correlation has to do with the detail that the subconscious mind takes care of in bringing about what you visualize. And subconscious correlation is what happened when Mrs. Hines sat there between 1 and 2 a.m. in the morning in her head, in her mind, seeing the kind of house she wanted. It was subconsciously correlated, all of the details, and before she could get out of her house the next morning, the subconscious mind had everything worked out so that she was led to that house. This was a dramatic instance. Sometimes it takes a longer time, and sometimes it happens so fast that people say it makes their head swim. We had a lady who was here with us. She told us she had visualized a house that she wanted on Friday night. And she visualized it down to the fact that she wanted a clothesline. With all that money she had demonstrated and so on, I wondered why she was still hanging out her clothes. But I read the transcript again and I found out. She says she likes to smell sheets on the line. See, you have to look for these clues. And she said she visualized the house that she wanted. She saw the clothes blowing on the line. She could smell the sheets like she likes to smell them, laundered sheets. And on Friday night, she visualized the house she wanted. She visualized the details. In her mind, she what? Already had it. And you remember also that in a previous lesson, I told you that you're to use all of your senses in visualizing, all of your esoteric senses, right? What do? You see it, you feel it, you smell it, you touch it, and you involve your sense of taste as well. Well, she saw the clothes blowing on the line, just like she wanted it, saw the house. And the next day, she and her husband found the house. As a matter of fact, her husband found the house and came and told her, hey, I found the house that you would want. And it was exactly as she visualized it. Subconscious correlation. Say that with me. Subconscious correlation. It indicates that the subconscious mind knows how to correlate all of the necessary details regarding what you visualize and to bring it to pass. So then visualization is seeing and feeling yourself in your own mind already being, doing, and having the good that you desire. Practice this. Now, you may come here and hear me teach the theory. You may read it in a book, and all of that is fine. But you know, one of the differences in this ministry is that we don't just give theory. We believe in practice. And of course, I keep telling you, and it cannot be repeated too often, one of the best times to repeat this is before going to sleep at night. And I'm not going to say one of the best times. I'm going to say that is the single best time. Why? Because when you visualize, you are on the transliminal level of mind, and you go to sleep, and the objective mind, or the reasoning mind, or the intellect does not have a chance to talk you out of it. And some of you know what I'm talking about. It seems like there are two things talking on the inside of you. You say what you want, and then reason comes to you and say, hey, no, you can't do that. How many experience that? Mm-hmm. But remember, when you're visualizing, you're not reasoning. As I said, your imagination cannot reason, and your reason has no imagination. So it means when you visualize, you move out of the intellectual area of mind altogether. I'm just going to read a definition of subconscious correlation, and I'm going to give this to you officially in another class. Subconscious correlation, the affinity between a thought and its thing, the inevitable action of the subconscious whereby it finds, draws, and brings together all necessary mental and material components necessary to the fulfillment of any idea or conviction of the mind. Reverend Ike said that. Don't look at me. Every idea will always find what belongs to it. Every belief will always find what belongs to it. Every vision will subconsciously find what belongs to it. Visualize success, and it is inevitable that all of the necessary mental and material components will be brought together to bring it to pass. Another part of the definition for visualization. Visualization is deliberate, positive, creative dreaming of things into expression. So in your visualizing, you have to be deliberate. In other words, it indicates that you've got to choose what you're going to visualize. You decide what you want to visualize. Use your visional faculty, but do not be used by it. You must control your imagination. Never permit your imagination to control you. Remember that now. Even when we go through the visualization process and you get caught up in it, be sure that you are in control. Because, as I said before also, people are always visualizing, And there's too much negative visualization. An example of negative visualization is that song. They call it a spiritual, but it's really a blues. And it's that song, Nobody Knows the Trouble I See. See what you're doing? What are you seeing? And what's the law of mind? What you see, what you get. And then folks said, I don't know why I have to cry sometimes. Well, you said nobody knows the trouble I see. You see, you are dreaming trouble into existence. You are envisioning trouble for yourself. I want to repeat this again because this is so important. You must control your imagination because, again, another way of defining visualization is using the imagination consciously and willfully to be what you want to be, to do what you want to do, and to have what you want to have. In life, you must use or be used. In the mental aspect of life, it is the same thing. Use or be used. God has given you these faculties, and you must use your imagination or somebody else will use it. The television will flash on just what a headache looks like. And then 6 months later, when you get an Excedrin headache, you swear you never thought it up. The television shows you exactly what an upset stomach looks like. I remember one from years ago, and you cross it out as it gets to you. Showed a picture of this upset stomach, but it was just carrying on. And the stomach was talking, and the stomach said, I told him not to send any more of that stuff down here. Evidently, the guy was drinking too much and eating too much. Stomach was just throwing it back up. And then, of course, there was this kind of medicine that you would take that would settle it right down. The media, the world, is constantly trying to use your imagination. The world is constantly trying to use your mind. And let me tell you this, ladies and gentlemen, make no mistake about it, your mind is going to be used. The only question is, who is going to use my mind? Ask yourself that question. Let's say it together. Come on. Who is going to use my mind? That's the question. Your mind is going to be used. Your imagination is going to be used. Who's going to use it? I am going to use my mind. Together, I am going to use my mind. And you see, you must use it deliberately. You must use it positively. You must use it in ways that are creative of the good you desire. When you're using your mind, when you're using your imagination, and on a daily basis, whenever you think, the good question to ask yourself, is this thought creative of the good that I desire? Getting back to that so-called spiritual, it's really a blues. Nobody knows the trouble I see. Ask yourself the question, now, does this create the good that I want? And any thought, mood, attitude, idea, vision, or imagination that does not create the good that you desire, cut it off. Message on forgiveness for a moment. An unforgiving, hateful, hurting state of mind is not creative of good, is it? It creates more of the same. Remember that. Every state of mind creates its own likeness. This is the true meaning that God created man in his own image and in his own likeness. Somebody thinks, the theologians tell us that this is something that happened centuries ago. More than that. You are constantly creating your world, the manifestations in your world, after your own image and likeness, after the image and likeness in your own mind. And there in the first chapter of Genesis, where it uses the word image, it has to do with imagination, and man means what? Manifestation. God is consciousness. Your consciousness is always creating the images that are in it after its likeness. Creation as such is not finished. Creation is continual. God's consciousness is continually creating your world through you. Every man creates his own world. The hundreds of you sitting here tonight, side by side, each really is living in his own world. And how is your world created? After the image and likeness that's in your own mind. And visualization, correctly understood, teaches us how to control the images and the likenesses in our mind, how to decide them, how to choose them, how to use our imagination instead of being used by it, and instead of letting the world use our imagination. Don't ever let anybody else tell you what you can or cannot be and do and have. Don't do it.